Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kat, and today I'll be doing a Sims 4 speed build of a cafe I called Genesis Cafe. So this build is actually based off of a real-life cafe I used to go to pre-pandemic, and it's actually been over a year since I've last been here because of obviously the pandemic. And since it's been so long since I've been here, I actually had to go on Yelp and look at photos of the cafe to kind of get like a reference and remind myself what the interior looked like as well as the exterior. So here you can see me putting the counters and like the chairs and the bar stools, and that's generally what it looks like, except obviously I can't replicate exactly how it looks like in The Sims because of proportion differences. So the chairs won't exactly take the same amount of units as a chair in real life, for example. I don't know if that makes sense, but you can see me playing around with like the size of the build and a little bit with the walls as well as placement of things. And I actually know what everything looks like except the back room in the top left corner. It's empty right now, but I assume that's like a storage space or like a back room where they make other things like snacks for the cafe in real life. But in the build I just kind of put it as like a storage space, and I put some cork boards and like I think a chalkboard where you'll see later for people to have like their schedules and things posted. So in terms of interior and exterior, I was surprised by how accurate I could get with chairs and tables, and same thing with like wallpapers in The Sims. I didn't expect them to have, of course, like a completely accurate depiction of the things that they have in real life, but I was surprised with how close I could get. Like I think later on you'll see like the chevron wallpaper outside of the cafe. That's I think pretty much what it is in real life because I compared it to Yelp review photos and compared it from what I remember from when I saw it a while ago. Something harder for me to do though was the bathroom. As you can see here, I don't exactly remember the bathroom, but from what I remember it was pretty simple, but I don't of course remember things like wallpaper and the floors, and there weren't any photos on Yelp, so I just kind of had to wing it. But I think overall the hardest thing for me to do was kind of filling up the space and also doing the windows, because in real life the cafe that I'm building is part of like a multi-purpose complex, so there's buildings beside it, so the sides are completely occupied and don't necessarily have windows. So you can see me change the windows quite a few times before I get it to a place where I like it, and it was kind of tedious because you'll see later I put like clutter items on the windows because I chose bay windows. So at this point, I'm basically done with everything I know in terms of what I've seen. So I think from this point forward, you'll see me adding embellishments like clutter and plants, which aren't necessarily true to real life. I think it was more so just to make the cafe look a little more full and more lively. But other than the embellishments that I've added, like the plants and the wall hangings, the actual look of the cafe is pretty accurate, I would say. So I think it was around this point where I started feeling a bit nostalgic, where like I start adding things like you see here, wall decorations and clutter, because it starts giving more life to the cafe. And it made me start missing my friends a lot, because I obviously haven't seen them in pretty much like a year or over a year. So I started getting really nostalgic here and remembering like things that I've done, like even simple things like studying and reading in here. I just kind of miss like the peace and quiet that I had like during these times. Obviously, other than peace and quiet, I also, of course, like miss going out and seeing my friends. And part of me almost like, not even almost, like I actually do miss things like school and going to work, because of not only the structure it brought to my life, but also the fact that every day was like kind of different, and it made me, I don't know, excited to see and do new things. Doing this build and thinking about those types of things kind of brought back quite a few memories to me too. And it just kind of reminds me of the time my friend brought me here, the one that actually showed me the cafe. And like, it's just like a really fond memory of mine. I feel like I remember the day pretty well actually, because it was rainy and we had to run from the parking spot. Not really run, but we had to like move pretty fast from like our car parking slot to the cafe, because it was raining pretty hard. So we went inside and we were wet. And then I remember she went to the bathroom and then she was like, "Oh, can you pay?" So I paid, but my card kept declining. So she ended up having to pay. And then once we sat down, I checked my card balance, and my card balance was like less than $1. It was like maybe a few cents, and it was so embarrassing. And at this point, it's where I make the big brain decision to move the entire lot to the left and add the parking lot that you see here, or the parking lot that I'm about to add here. And like I said earlier, everything from this point forward is manufactured, so meaning that this parking lot isn't real. I just thought that it'd be nice to add, since there's quite a bit of lot space left at this venue. So I added the parking lot, and I thought it'd end up pretty cute. You can see that I later add more stuff to the parking lot. Instead of it just being empty, I add like actual cars, of course, and I add a little bike rack, and I add bikes, of course, to the bike rack. And I think it was actually a really nice touch to put, I think, like a trellis over the bike rack so it can have shade. I actually bought Get Together, which is where the cafe location comes from. I actually bought the Get Together expansion pack kind of just because it had cafes, and it was like the beginning of quarantine and I was kind of missing like my regular schedule and regular life, so I bought it to kind of get a sense of normalcy, so I could, I don't know, make myself as a sim and study in a cafe and go to university classes and have a job. So this was kind of like the main reason I got the Get Together expansion pack, which is kind of stupid when I think about it, because it's kind of like expensive. Like all of the DLC for the Sims game is pretty expensive, but I thought it would be kind of a nice addition to my gameplay. I would say in terms of how the actual cafe lot functions in the game, it's kind of subpar, to be honest. Like there's not much to do. It's more so just like a venue where you can order food and get coffee, and there's obviously not much to it. I don't know, I think I just had high hopes for no absolute reason. I wish something that we could do though with Get Together is I guess kind of in tandem with Get to Work. Like, you could work as a barista, since of course we have like the barista occupation in The Sims. I wish we could also take our Sims to work at a cafe and do the things that we could do, like as a doctor, as a detective, with being a barista. I will say though that like the menu in the cafe is kind of minimal to me, or maybe I'm just like, I don't know, used to something more expansive. Like in Dine Out, I feel like the Dine Out menu is kind of expansive, but at the same time it could be expanded upon. So maybe it's just that, but who knows. And in terms of the real life menu of which this cafe is based on, I actually had a regular order and it was a hot matcha latte. And I didn't actually order some of the real food items too often from the cafe. I've maybe only tried them once or twice, and I think what I had were like the strawberry waffles, and from what I remember they were pretty good actually. It's just not really why I went there. I just kind of went there more so for the matcha lattes. So this was actually the really tedious part where I start cluttering up everything and adding small details. It actually took me forever to scroll through the debug menu to find things that I wanted and finding things that I thought would fit nicely. Of course, like, the debug menu isn't part of the regular furniture item list or catalog, so it's obviously not organized, but I still wish there was like some sense to it where you can kind of get an idea of the way things are organized in there. I think that would be really helpful. And I know there's a mod where you can have it organized for you, but I still don't really feel like downloading it because like my computer already like wheezes and has asthma essentially when I run The Sims, so I don't really feel like downloading things like mods or CC. But yeah, anyway, this portion took me a while to do, like cluttering up and adding small details to the build. I think this is probably what took me the majority of the time, just trying to scroll and find things that I wanted to add and have as, I don't know, little accessories to the build. It was very tedious, but I think it pays off in the end when you see like the final result of how it looks. Okay guys, so the screenshots are coming up and that concludes the video. I hope you guys loved the video as much as I loved making the build, and I hope to see you guys again next time. Bye!